Hi there! This video discusses the most exciting aspect of American jurisprudence, zoning law. And like many aspects of our legal culture that seems to be deliberately difficult to understand, it is vitally, drastically important. Think of it like a bag of Cheetos. Absolutely nobody understands the ingredients, but people eat them as if they were made of cheese-flavored Viagra. Except that instead of merely eating the whole bag and still not feeling full because there's no actual food in a Cheeto, the consequences might be spending your family's entire savings on a home and waking up one day to realize it is surrounded by a dozen new shelters for homeless and drunken howler monkeys. So briefly, zoning codes preserve certain areas for certain uses. It's why you don't see strip clubs next to elementary schools or pig farms in the middle of a residential street. Zoning codes are, while boring and bothersome, generally considered to be good things, conducive to human health and happiness, like plumbing or condoms. But the pretty little pony of zoning for developers has become the PUD, or Planned Unit Development. Originally, the PUD was designed to add flexibility to large-scale developments that would need a variety of uses to function, like a housing development that had a Publix on site, which would need both residential and commercial zoning. On paper, it seemed as if it was a good idea, but, like a lot of good ideas, it caught fire and exploded in everybody's faces when exposed to money. Today, the city of Jacksonville uses PUDs to allow developers to literally write their own zoning code for anything they want to do, wherever they want to do it, regardless of any regulation which might already be in place. Something, it is worth noting, that is expressly forbidden by the laws actually governing the creation and use of these devices. During the Roost's Land Use and Zoning meeting, Mike Saylor, the former director of Jacksonville's planning department, claimed, in direct contradiction of actual law, that PUDs, by definition, could not be in conflict with other zoning laws because they make up their own as they go along. In this case, the fox is not only running the henhouse, he also sent the farmer off to bed with a dozen Ambien, stole his credit cards, and is sleeping with his wife. And just in case you're wondering where you and I fit into this picture, we would be the chickens. Now you might be asking, hey Kevin, this sounds like it ought to be illegal. How come no one's going to jail here? Fantastic question, glad you asked. The reason is that these decisions are not made in a courtroom by legal experts, but by politicians who rely on lawyers to tell them what to do. Now this is not entirely our politicians' fault. They're required by their jobs to adjudicate on a bewildering array of unrelated and complicated subjects that no human being could reasonably expect it to know everything about. As a result, the inclination is to believe whoever sounds the most authoritative. And while the attorneys that spend the greatest time lobbying our city council tend to be the most repellent examples of humanity to be found floating in the toilets of City Hall, if you didn't know any better, you'd probably buy a used car from one of them. The skill set is more or less the same, and our overworked council members are the perfect marks. This is why the fight against the Roost was always headed towards court. The used car dealers own the back rooms of City Hall, and there was almost no chance of ever receiving a fair hearing. But now, in court, in front of a fair-minded judge who will actually read the law, our odds are much improved. But, and I sympathize with everyone who is tired of hearing this, we need more money to continue this fight. Justice is only for those who can afford to buy it, and we all know it doesn't come cheap. Our fight is not only against the Roost, but against PUDs being used to turn our neighborhood into someone else's vision of a giant henhouse. And we are not chickens. The success or failure of the Roost affects not only all of Riverside and Avondale, but also anywhere in Jacksonville that supposedly enjoys the protection of a historical overlay. If this sounds like the kind of thing you'd like to stop from happening in your neighborhood, PROUD can really use your help. Please mail checks to Kevin Petway at 2249 Oak Street, Jacksonville, Florida 32204. Or, if you prefer, head over to gofundme.com/riversideproud to make a donation. Our advocate is Barry Bobeck. Your contributions are not only welcome, but necessary.